thought I'd show you how to make gluten-free rough puff pastry. Now, rough puff pastry is a really simple version of puff pastry. It's so much easier than just the regular puff pastry. It won't take you too long, but it still retains that butteriness and all those layers and the flakiness that you really, really like about puff pastry. It's a really versatile pastry that can be used to make sweet and savoury things. So for instance, I use it to make sausage rolls. I also use it to make Danish pastries and pastel de nata. And as I said at the beginning, it's really, really easy. I think people get scared when they think about making pastry, let alone gluten-free pastry, but trust me, this gluten-free rough puff is the one. And if you want to find the recipe, you can find it in my book. So I'll leave links to how you can get my book below, and also ways in which you can use the pastry. So my book has recipes for the likes of sausage rolls, Danish pastries, and pastel de nata. So if you want to try making those, that's the place to go. Anyway, I need to show you now what ingredients we'll need for this recipe, and then we can get on with it. Right, so here are all the ingredients that you'll need. As you can see, very, very simple. Let's start here. I've got some gluten-free plain or all-purpose flour. I have got some xanthan gum. I've got some salt, just need a pinch of salt for this. In here, looks like it's empty, but I've actually got some egg white. Then I've got some ice cold water, and this does need to be really, really cold. And also some really, really cold butter. So both of these need to be really, really chilly, and you don't really want to make this as a recipe on a really, really hot day. I find it just doesn't work as well. Wait for a medium temperature / cooler day with all pastry really. But yeah, I've chopped this into sort of kind of 1 centimetre squares, and then if you chop this and it's a bit warm, make sure you then put it back in the fridge or in the freezer just to cool it down again, and keep your hands cool at all times, and that's literally all you need. So firstly, we just want to put our dry ingredients into our bowl and mix it all together. Next up is one of the most important parts, and that's adding the butter. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put this in and then just mix it around, and then we're going to get our hands in there, and we're not going to rub it in like you would with a crumble or something like that. We're going to just squeeze each bit. I'll show you what I mean. You don't want to rub it in, you want to have those chunks because you want them in the layers of the puff pastry. It's literally just like squeezing it down, and it should be quite hard to because it's cold, but like that was a cube, I squeezed it down and that will be all rubbed in. So yeah. So the butter is all coated in the flour now, and as I just said, we're going to squeeze each bit in, just sort of like this. And we'll do that until each bit of butter is squeezed kind of flat. Okay, so now that your butter has all been flattened down into thinner pieces, we need to add some liquid. So our liquid is an egg white mixed with some ice cold water, and we're going to add this really gradually, cutting it in with a knife, or sort of picking up and just feeling it around a bit with our hands, but never sort of squeezing it together. We're not trying to make a dough straight away. If we tried to push it all together, it probably would go together, but then the dough would be really, really dry because it's not hydrated enough. So we want to keep adding this and cutting it in so that we can hydrate the flour and make it a much more workable, a much more tasty and just awesome gluten-free rough puff pastry dough. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to initially cut it in a bit with a knife, and then I'll see how I get on, and then I'll probably get my hands in there. So once I've added all of my liquid, I might find that I need a little bit more, or it might be perfect. So I'll show you the consistency that we're looking for so that you'll know what to aim for when you're doing it yourself as well. So I've added all my liquid, and you can see that although a lot of it is coming together, there is still quite a lot of flour that hasn't got sort of any liquid feel to it. It's quite sort of floury still. So because of that, I'm going to add a little bit more water, but you want to do this really slowly and really carefully, because a little bit can go a long way. So I'll keep doing that until I feel like it's the right texture, and it will sort of come together itself. Like you'll keep tossing it a bit like this, and it will just naturally come together to form a dough. You're not forcing it, it will just come together. So we'll add a little bit more water, keep doing this, keep cutting it in and using our hands to just toss it like this, and it will become what we want it to be. And there you go, just by continuously sort of tossing it up in the air with a little bit extra water, you've kind of got your dough. It's just all come together. So I'm just gonna sort my hands out and then I'll show you what we need to do next. Okay, so at this point the dough shouldn't be dry, but it shouldn't be sticky. It should be somewhere in between. If it's a little sticky, it doesn't matter too much, but it should be sort of, I can press my finger in and nothing comes off. So I'm going to take it out of this bowl and I'm going to place it just on some non-stick baking paper, which is what I like to always work with pastry on. And then I'm going to form it into more of a rectangular shape and place it in the fridge for about 15 minutes, wrapped in either baking paper like this or cling film, and then it will be ready to start the rolling process and the folding process. Something that you'll also notice at this stage is that you can see the butter. There are lots of little bits of butter throughout the pastry, and that's because we didn't rub it in, we just pressed it, and that's what you want. That's what gives it the nice flavour, the nice layers, nice puffiness. All those things comes from the butter in puff pastry. So now I'm going to place this into the fridge for about 15 minutes just to cool it down a bit. This is something that we're going to continue to do throughout the process. It's very simple, but it takes a little bit of time because we need to roll it and then fold it and then chill it and do it again and again and again. But it's worth it. Okay, so my dough has been chilling in the fridge for about 15 minutes and it's a lot cooler now. You can leave it for a bit longer if you want to, that's no problem. And now I am going to roll it out. So I've got some non-stick baking paper here, which I always like to roll out on. You can just roll out onto a floured surface, but I always find that things just seem to stick anyway, depending on what your surface is. So the non-stick baking paper, lightly floured as well. So with a little bit of flour, I'll roll it out onto this, and I'm going to roll it to about 1 centimetre, so I think that's around ½ inch thick. I've got one of these rolling pins where I've made it so that it will only roll to 1 centimetre, which is really handy, and I'm going to roll it into a rectangle shape, about 40 centimetres by 12, so it'll be sort of a long thing like this. But it doesn't matter too much, you just kind of want it to be in that rectangular shape. And then I will show you, once that's done, how I fold it. Make sure your hands are cold, make sure that your rolling pin is floured, and yeah, off we go. What I also really like about using non-stick baking paper is that you can turn it around so that you can roll it easier different angles. Okay, so my dough looks a bit like this. Ideally you want the edges to be as smooth as possible and it to be even, but at this point it really doesn't matter. You can see all the nice bits of butter throughout it, which is great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fold it over. So I'm going to fold this side into the centre and then this side over the top of it, kind of a bit like how you'd fold a letter to go into an envelope. If it sticks a little bit, like mine inevitably will, it doesn't matter. So we'll just fold this over like that. And then this, as evenly as you can, doesn't matter if it's not perfect. Fold that over the top. And you can see that obviously you've got gaps and stuff, but it doesn't matter because we're going to roll this out quite a few more times until it's ready to use. So obviously we've warmed the dough up now, so what we're going to do is we're going to wrap it back up into our cling film, baking paper, whatever you want, and put it back into the fridge for another 15 minutes before we turn it. So we'll be turning it this way and rolling it out again at a slightly different direction. So you do need to remember which way you rolled your dough, which I think is quite straightforward because you'll have folded it over, so you'll see that this fold on top is here, so you'll know that then you want to rotate it this way. But we can talk about that once it's been chilled for another 15 minutes. Okay, so I'm back to roll my dough for a second time. Last time we finished and it looked like this, so what we want to do is we want to turn it this way, so you can turn it or turn the baking paper, and then roll it exactly the same as we did last time, so with our rolling pin to 1 centimetre thickness in that similar sort of oblong rectangle shape. and then fold it up again like we did this time, and then put it back and chill it for 15 minutes, and then do it 2 more times after that. By that point, the butter won't be so visible, so we're sort of rolling it to make it into proper pastry, and then it will actually be ready to use. So I'm not going to obviously go through every single rolling out and folding, because it'll be like, hello, it's me again, hello, it's me again. But that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to show you once more, and then after that I will be doing it 2, possibly 3 more times, just till the point where it looks nice and smooth. But I'll show you what it looks like at the smooth, ready to rock and roll point. Okay, so I've just rolled this out for the very final time before I then fold it up and put it into the fridge. And now for the last fridge sort of session, it needs to go in for at least half an hour, but it can go in for longer. You can do it the day before you want to use it. So this is what it looks like. I'll put it this way. It's really nice and smooth, and yeah, it's got all the layers in just because you folded it that many times, but it's not complicated or difficult. It might take a few rolls, but it's easy. So I'm going to fold this up, and then I will put this in the fridge for another, well, for me, I think it will probably be until tomorrow when I want to use it for dinner. But it's basically ready to use in half an hour, and you would just use it as if you'd bought shop bought puff pastry, rough puff pastry, whatever. You can use it exactly in the same way. You'd roll it out and it would be ready to use. So there you go. That is my gluten-free rough puff pastry. It is so versatile. It can be used for so many different things. So like I said, sausage rolls, pastel de nata, pie tops even. You can use it for Danish pastries. The possibilities are endless. Whatever you think of when you think of puff pastry, you can pretty much make with this, which is really, really cool. As I said, the recipe for this is in my book, which I will link in the description below. It's my first ever book, so I'd really, really appreciate the support. Thank you in advance. And yeah, if you want to watch more videos like this because you've enjoyed this one, then click up here because I can show you how to make gluten-free sausage rolls using this pastry, and click up here because I will show you how to make Danish pastries, gluten-free Danish pastries using this pastry. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!